Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something most people will never admit out loud. Love isn't just about chemistry, it's about psychology. There are hidden triggers inside the male mind, buttons you can press without him even realizing, that make him crave you, miss you, and fall for you in ways he can't explain. These aren't games, they're principles. And once you know how to use them with authenticity, you stop being just another option and become the only woman he can't forget. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will completely change the way you understand attraction. Imagine for a moment that you could tap into the hidden side of human psychology, the side most people never speak about, but everyone is influenced by. When it comes to love, attraction, and connection, there are subtle forces at play. Forces that aren't about manipulation, but about understanding what makes people feel something they can't ignore. And when you know how to use them with the right intention, you can create a magnetic pull so powerful that a man won't just be interested in you, he'll feel compelled to love you. The first truth you need to understand is that people don't fall in love with what they understand logically, they fall in love with what they feel emotionally. This is why dark psychology isn't about deceiving, it's about learning how to tap into emotions so deep that he doesn't even realize why he feels this intense attachment to you. You see, men are far more vulnerable to psychological influence than they like to admit. They think they're rational, but when it comes to attraction, their mind is wired to respond to very specific cues that bypass logic and speak straight to the subconscious. The first trick is unpredictability. Nothing fuels desire more than mystery. Most people, when they want love, they try to make themselves as available, as predictable, and as accommodating as possible. But the human brain doesn't crave what's certain, it craves novelty. Imagine if every time he reached out to you, he already knew what you'd say, how you'd respond, or what you'd do. There's no intrigue, no spark. But when you respond in ways that surprise him, when sometimes you're deeply affectionate and other times playfully distant, you create an emotional rollercoaster, and the human brain becomes addicted to unpredictability because it can't settle. It keeps chasing the high of the unknown. That's how obsession is born. The second trick is the power of scarcity. Human beings value what they believe they might lose. When you make your time, your energy, and your attention scarce, you instantly elevate your value in his eyes. Think about it. If he knows you'll always be there, his subconscious says, I don't have to fight for this. But if your attention feels precious, if he senses he could lose your focus to something or someone else, suddenly his brain prioritizes you. He feels a sense of urgency, a sense of needing to lock you down. Scarcity is one of the most powerful psychological forces in human behavior. Use it not by withholding love, but by showing him that your love is selective, that it's earned, not given by default. The third trick is emotional contrast. Love doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows in waves. If you're always positive, always sweet, always agreeable, he feels comfort but not depth. But when you allow him to experience both your warmth and your standards, your affection and your boundaries, he feels intensity. Contrast makes the highs higher. When you laugh with him, tease him, challenge him, then later show your softness, it creates an emotional rhythm. And this rhythm conditions him to feel that life with you isn't flat, it's an adventure. People don't crave safety as much as they crave aliveness. Give him that, and his mind links you with something he doesn't want to let go. The fourth trick is the subtle art of mirroring on a subconscious level. We're drawn to people who reflect us back to ourselves. If you subtly mirror his tone, his body language, even his energy, he feels an unconscious bond with you. He won't know why, but he'll feel understood. He'll feel at home. But here's the deeper layer. You don't just mirror his behaviors, you mirror his aspirations. You reflect back to him the man he wants to be. When you treat him like the strongest, most capable version of himself, even when he doesn't fully feel like that, you activate his identity. He starts to believe he's that man in your presence. And soon he begins to crave you because with you, he feels like his best self. The fifth trick is selective vulnerability. Most people either overshare their emotions or build walls so high no one can get in. But the real power lies in being strong most of the time, then allowing glimpses of vulnerability. When you open up about a fear and insecurity or a dream in a moment of intimacy, it triggers a protective and emotional response in him. He feels chosen because you didn't show that side to everyone, you showed it to him. Vulnerability, when shared sparingly, creates an intense bond because it tells his subconscious, I matter enough for her to let me see the parts she hides from the world. That kind of connection is unforgettable. The sixth trick is creating anchors. Human emotions are tied to associations. When you consistently create powerful emotional experiences with him, whether it's through music, laughter, a scent, or a place, his brain begins to link those feelings to you. Imagine if every time he hears a certain song, he remembers a moment of passion with you. Or every time he tastes a certain drink, he recalls laughing uncontrollably with you. Anchors are like emotional fingerprints. They stay with him even when you're not there. And over time, they make you unforgettable because you're not just a person in his life, you're the feeling he can't stop chasing. The seventh trick is withdrawal. This one feels counterintuitive, but it's the most powerful of all. After you've built connection, laughter, intimacy, and emotional anchors, pull back. Not in a dramatic or cold way, but in a subtle, confident way that makes him feel your absence. This activates what's called psychological reactance. When something is taken away, the human mind craves it even more. When he feels the emptiness of your absence after being filled with the intensity of your presence, he doesn't just miss you, he aches for you. He replays the moments in his head. He starts chasing. And that chase isn't just about desire, it's about love. Because love is built not just in presence, but in the fear of losing that presence. Understand this, these are not games, they are principles of human behavior. When you know how to balance them, you're not manipulating, you're speaking the language of the subconscious. You're creating a bond that bypasses logic and goes straight to his emotions, because a man doesn't fall in love with the woman who gives him everything easily. He falls in love with the woman who makes him feel alive, the woman who sparks both desire and respect, the woman who knows how to stir his mind and touch his soul. And when you learn to embody these psychological triggers with authenticity, you become unforgettable. You become the woman he thinks about at night, the woman who lingers in his mind long after the conversation ends, the woman he feels he can't let go of, even if he tried. Because what truly captivates a man isn't surface attraction, it's the invisible pull he can't explain. It's the way his heart races when he knows he's in danger of losing something extraordinary. It's the tension between wanting to hold you close and fearing he can't fully possess you. That tension is where love grows. Most people think love is about comfort, but real, unforgettable love is built in the space between desire and uncertainty. It's in that space that the mind can't stop replaying moments, words, and feelings. And when you master how to create that space, he doesn't just want you, he needs you. Think about how the human brain works. It's designed to notice contrast. We value warmth after cold, we value silence after noise, we value closeness after distance. If all he ever feels with you is comfort, he won't truly grasp the value of that comfort. But when you weave in moments of distance, when you show that you have your own world, your own passions, your own rhythm, you create a contrast that makes your presence addictive. He begins to cherish the moments you give him because he knows they aren't guaranteed. That scarcity and contrast awaken a deeper appreciation, one that logic can't shut down. Now, imagine the subtle art of emotional escalation. Most relationships stall because people keep their emotions at one level, but attraction thrives when you escalate. Start with curiosity, then move to laughter, then create sparks of playfulness, then step into intimacy. This layering builds momentum. The brain remembers how it felt to rise from one emotional state to another, and it links that exhilarating climb to you. You become the source of that journey. He doesn't just enjoy being with you, he feels transformed by you. And transformation is what locks people in. There's also the undeniable truth that people fall in love with those who make them feel seen in ways others don't. This is where deep attention comes in. When he speaks, don't just hear his words, hear the meaning underneath. Ask the question no one else asks. Notice the detail no one else notices. When you give him the experience of being understood at a level he doesn't even understand himself, you bypass attraction and move into attachment. The human need to be understood is one of the deepest psychological drivers, and when you fulfill it selectively, you become irreplaceable. But here's where the darker edge of psychology comes in, the paradox of withholding validation. Most people smother the person they want with reassurance, thinking that love is proven by constant affirmations. But the mind doesn't value what is endlessly given. Instead, it values what is earned. When you give validation sparingly, when you let him wonder whether he's done enough to win your admiration, you trigger effort. And effort deepens emotional investment. He begins to work harder, to lean in more, to prove himself. Why? Because he knows your approval isn't cheap, it's precious. Then there's the subtle weapon of curiosity. Humans cannot resist an unanswered question. When you share glimpses of your world, but not the whole story, you create a puzzle. He feels compelled to solve it. He wonders what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're hiding. And that curiosity keeps his mind engaged, even when you're not there. The trick is not to overshare too quickly. Let your life unfold like a book. He's desperate to keep reading. Every unanswered chapter is another hook that keeps him emotionally invested. Another powerful element is ritual. Relationships thrive when there are shared rituals, small habits that feel exclusive. Maybe it's an inside joke, a playful nickname, a special way you say goodbye. These micro rituals become anchors that signal intimacy. They whisper to his subconscious, "This is ours. This belongs to no one else." And once rituals are established, the fear of losing them becomes a silent force that pulls him closer. He doesn't just crave you, he craves the world you've built together, piece by piece. Let's also talk about the magnetic pull of challenge. It's easy to give someone everything they want, but it's far more powerful to make them rise to meet your standard. When you challenge a man, not with hostility, but with playful strength, you awaken something primal in him. He feels the need to prove himself, to win, to step into his best self. Challenge creates growth, and growth creates attachment. People fall hardest for the ones who force them to evolve. If he feels like he's becoming more confident, more capable, more alive in your presence, he won't want to let that go. The mind is also wired for reward cycles. Think about how people get addicted to games, social media, or even gambling. It's because of intermittent rewards. The same applies in attraction. When you give affection consistently, it becomes expected. But when affection is given intermittently, sometimes in a burst of passion, sometimes withheld, it creates anticipation. He doesn't know when the reward is coming, but when it does, it feels electric. This unpredictability makes your affection more powerful than if it were constant. He's not just enjoying you, he's hooked on the possibility of the next reward. And never underestimate the allure of absence. When you step back after moments of intensity, you let the silence do the work for you. In that silence, his mind replays everything you've given him, the laughter, the touch, the moments of intimacy. Absence is the amplifier of emotion. It magnifies memory. It sharpens desire. It turns small gestures into monumental ones. People rarely value what is always present, but they obsess over what they fear losing. By mastering the balance of presence and absence, you create a gravitational pull that keeps him orbiting you no matter what. What many overlook is the role of subtle dominance. Not dominance in the sense of control, but in the sense of leading the emotional rhythm. When you decide when the conversation ends, when you set the pace of intimacy, when you create the highs and lows, you hold the power of emotional direction. Men, despite their bravado, are deeply influenced by the person who sets the emotional tone. If he feels that you are the one guiding the journey, without ever saying it directly, he subconsciously follows. That surrender, done willingly, is one of the deepest signs of love. There's also the undeniable force of exclusivity. Humans crave what feels rare and special. When you show him that not everyone gets your energy, that not everyone sees the sides of you he gets to see, he begins to value you differently. He realizes he's part of a select circle, and that exclusivity triggers pride, protection, and fear of loss all at once. He doesn't just want you, he wants to hold on to the privilege of being the one who gets the parts of you hidden from the rest of the world. And finally, consider the most subtle yet devastatingly powerful force of all: silence in key moments. Most people rush to fill silence, to explain, to reassure, but silence creates weight. When you leave after he reveals something vulnerable, that silence makes him feel heard at a level words can't reach. When you let a look linger instead of speaking, that silence burns in his memory. Silence is not emptiness, it's presence intensified. It forces him to sit with the weight of his emotions, and in that weight, attachment grows. When you weave together unpredictability, scarcity, emotional contrast, selective vulnerability, anchoring, withdrawal, challenge, curiosity, exclusivity, and silence, you don't just create attraction, you create obsession. Not obsession built on manipulation, but obsession built on deep psychological triggers that awaken a man's primal and emotional core. He doesn't understand why he feels it, but he does. He feels compelled. He feels alive. He feels addicted. And once that switch is flipped, once those emotions are anchored into his subconscious, he will move mountains just to hold on to the one who made him feel that way. Because once that switch is flipped, everything changes in the way he sees you. His focus narrows, his priorities rearrange, and suddenly the world feels less important compared to the thought of keeping you close. This is where deeper layers of psychology begin to shape his emotions in ways he can't even articulate. What he once viewed as casual or uncertain now becomes essential, urgent, and personal. His mind begins to form invisible threads of attachment, weaving you into the fabric of his everyday thoughts. And the more those threads multiply, the more impossible it becomes for him to imagine a life without them. What makes this so powerful is that human beings are creatures of association. Every interaction, every moment, every emotional high or low is stored not just as memory, but as meaning. When he feels joy in your presence, it isn't just a passing experience. His brain links you to that joy. When he feels challenged but validated by you, he links you to that growth. These links create an emotional map where you become the central point, the reference for all other feelings. Over time, this conditioning becomes inescapable. He can try to reason it away. He can try to distract himself, but the emotional blueprint is already set. And once it's set, it drives behavior more than logic ever could. This is why timing becomes such an underestimated force in attraction. Delivering the right feeling at the right moment creates intensity that lingers. For example, when he feels uncertain about himself and you drop just the right encouragement, that encouragement doesn't feel generic, it feels life-saving. When he feels on top of the world and you share in that celebration with genuine enthusiasm, it amplifies the experience tenfold. Timing makes ordinary gestures extraordinary because they arrive at the exact moment his subconscious is most open to receiving them. He may not even register why it mattered so much, but his emotions will. And here's where subtle scarcity combines with presence. If you are always there at every moment, the contrast is lost. But when your presence is felt most during significant moments, when he's vulnerable, when he's excited, when he's questioning himself, you become more than just another person in his life. You become the voice that rises above the noise, the energy that feels uniquely attuned to his journey. Scarcity sharpens presence, making it cut deeper into his memory. It's not about withholding yourself for the sake of withholding. It's about being deliberate in the moments you choose to show up fully so that those moments echo long after they end. Another element that heightens attachment is the use of subtle emotional withdrawal, not just after closeness, but after intensity. Think of it as leaving a cliffhanger in a story. When the plot reaches a peak and then suddenly stops, the reader is desperate to know what happens next. The same happens in the emotional rhythm of attraction. If after an intense conversation, a playful moment, or a vulnerable confession, you step back and give space, his mind becomes restless. He replays the moment, analyzes it, wonders what it means, and anticipates the next one. That anticipation becomes a psychological loop. And it's in that loop that love deepens. Now let's talk about the human need for investment. We value what we pour effort into. The more time, energy, and emotional labor someone invests in us, the harder it becomes for them to detach. This is why one of the most subtle yet powerful techniques is to create opportunities for him to invest in you. Ask for small favors, invite his opinion, lean on him in moments where his strength, emotional or practical, can shine. When he steps up for you, he doesn't just feel helpful, he feels connected. His subconscious begins to rationalize, I'm investing in her because she matters. And the more he invests, the more he convinces himself of your value in his life. But there's a critical balance. Investment must be met with appreciation, not dependency. If he feels his effort is swallowed into a void, he withdraws. But if he feels seen, valued, and respected for what he gives, he doubles down. Appreciation is the fuel that turns effort into devotion. It tells him, your energy here is not wasted. It is noticed. It is cherished. And once he feels that reinforcement, he begins to associate you with the rewarding feeling of being a man who makes a difference. That's not just attraction, that's purpose. And human beings at the deepest level crave purpose. When he feels that his presence in your life elevates him into a role he wants to embody, he ties his identity to you. He starts to believe that with you, he is not just loved, but significant. This is why the reflection of his best self in your eyes is so magnetic. When he looks at you and sees the version of himself he most wants to be, he will fight to hold on to that mirror. He'll fear losing it, because losing it feels like losing a part of himself. And this is where attachment grows roots too deep to ignore. What also fuels this attachment is the dance of polarity. In every connection, there's a push and pull between energies, strength and softness, certainty and mystery, playfulness and seriousness. When you embody both ends of these spectrums at different times, you keep the dynamic alive. Too much softness without strength feels flat. Too much strength without softness feels cold. But when you shift between them, when you can tease and challenge in one moment, then nurture and comfort in the next, you create a depth that no one-dimensional connection can match. It's in this polarity that his emotions get stretched, tested, and intensified, and it's that stretching that makes him feel alive. Another layer is the psychology of shared secrets. Humans bond through exclusivity, and nothing feels more exclusive than a secret. When you share something personal that you don't share with everyone else, whether it's a dream, a fear, or even a quirky side of your personality, it creates intimacy. But even more powerful is when you allow him to share his secrets with you. If he feels safe enough to reveal the parts of himself he hides from the world, he forges a bond he won't easily replicate. He ties that vulnerability to your presence, and in doing so, he subconsciously tells himself, "This is where I'm most real." And once someone feels real with you, they can't easily walk away. Anchoring curiosity, investment, polarity, secrets, these aren't just abstract ideas, they're psychological mechanisms that shape how humans connect. When you know how to orchestrate them with authenticity, you turn ordinary moments into unforgettable ones. Even something as simple as a glance across a room, when charged with the right emotional context, can feel electric. And when enough of these moments stack together, they create a story. A story he tells himself about what the two of you are, what you mean to him, and why letting go is unthinkable. And it's that story that drives him. People don't stay because of logic. They stay because of the story they've written in their hearts. A story that says, "This is the person who makes me feel the way no one else does." That story is more powerful than reason, more binding than circumstance, and more intoxicating than any surface-level attraction. It's not just about falling in love. It's about staying in love, about feeling pulled again and again, no matter the distractions of life. And when you master how to shape that story through psychology, emotion, and presence, you don't just capture his attention, you capture his devotion. And devotion, once rooted, becomes something far deeper than mere attraction. Devotion transforms his decisions, his priorities, even his behavior when you're not around. It isn't just about the moments you share, it's about the way he starts organizing his life in alignment with the thought of keeping you close. This is where psychology takes on its most powerful role, because it's no longer just about sparking emotion, it's about cementing identity. He doesn't just feel like he loves you, he begins to feel that loving you is part of who he is. And when love becomes tied to identity, it becomes unshakable. Human beings, at their core, crave certainty in a world full of chaos. But certainty doesn't come from routine, it comes from meaning. When he experiences you not just as a source of pleasure, but as a source of significance, you give him a sense of meaning. And meaning is one of the most powerful emotional currencies there is. The greatest bonds in life are built not around convenience, but around the belief that this connection makes life richer, fuller, more purposeful. When he looks at you and believes his life has greater meaning because of your presence, he clings to that belief with everything he has. What many fail to realize is that love isn't just born in joy, it's often born in struggle. The moments that truly bond people are not only the highs, but the times when they weather storms together. But here's the nuance. It's not about carrying his struggles for him. It's about allowing him to feel capable within them while still feeling supported by you. When you give him the sense that he can face life's challenges, yet he's not alone in facing them, you create a dynamic that fuses independence with intimacy. That balance makes the bond unbreakable, because he doesn't just see you as someone who brings him happiness, he sees you as someone who gives him strength. There's also a hidden layer of attraction that lies in anticipation. Most people underestimate the value of delayed gratification. But think about it, anticipation is the seed of longing. When you let him wait, when you allow time to stretch between highs, his imagination does the work for you. He replays the last moment, builds expectations for the next, and in doing so, he magnifies the intensity of both. Anticipation makes every interaction richer, every moment more valuable, because it carries the weight of what came before and the promise of what's to come. Without anticipation, love grows flat. With it, love becomes addictive. And then comes the art of emotional exclusivity. It's not just about being selective with your presence, it's about making him feel that the emotional connection he shares with you cannot be replicated with anyone else. People don't just want love, they want unique love. The feeling that no one else could create this particular experience. When you tailor your affection, your humor, your intimacy in a way that feels specific to him, he feels irreplaceable. And when someone feels irreplaceable, their need to protect that bond intensifies. He won't just want you, he'll want to defend the space he holds in your life. One of the most overlooked forces in attraction is the psychology of contrast in pace. Sometimes things move quickly, laughter that tumbles into intimacy, words that spark immediate connection. Other times things move slowly, a lingering glance, a pause before a kiss, a silence before an answer. By alternating between speed and slowness, you stretch time. You create the illusion that moments with you are more expansive, more significant. He begins to feel that time with you is not measured in minutes or hours, but in intensity. And when time stretches in memory, the bond deepens in reality. Let's not ignore the role of autonomy in attraction. True magnetism isn't created when someone depends on you for their entire sense of self. It's created when someone has their own life, but chooses you anyway. When you embody independence, when you clearly have passions, goals, and values outside of the relationship, you awaken respect. He sees that your world doesn't revolve around him, and that realization sparks desire. Why? Because people chase what they cannot fully possess. Independence creates that unspoken challenge to win more of your time, more of your attention, more of your heart. And in that pursuit, his feelings grow stronger. Another force that cements emotional pull is shared vision. People fall hardest, not just when they share fun, but when they glimpse a future together. But this isn't about explicitly mapping out every detail, it's about planting seeds. A passing comment about a place you'd love to travel, a playful imagine if conversation about life years from now, a subtle dream woven into casual talk. These seeds allow his mind to start picturing you in his future, and once the subconscious accepts that picture, it works tirelessly to protect it. He may not even realize he's building that vision, but it becomes his quiet motivation to hold on to you. And then there is the psychological power of elevation. Human beings tie their emotions to the people who elevate them. If every time he's with you, he feels inspired, challenged, and expanded, he begins to crave that elevation. It's not just about fun or intimacy, it's about growth. When someone feels like they are becoming more of who they want to be in your presence, the bond becomes more than emotional. It becomes transformational. And transformation is a drug the human spirit can't resist. He'll keep coming back again and again, not just because he loves you, but because he loves who he is when he's with you. It's also essential to recognize the psychology of rhythm in communication. Constant messaging, constant updates, constant presence dulls the experience. But communication that has rhythm, sometimes short and playful, sometimes deep and meaningful, sometimes absent altogether, creates music. And humans are wired to respond to rhythm. Rhythm gives structure, but it also gives unpredictability. It makes each message, each call, each conversation feel alive rather than obligatory. When communication feels alive, he feels alive. And he will never confuse that aliveness with anything ordinary. Another piece of the puzzle is symbolic intimacy. These are the small, almost invisible gestures that create disproportionate impact. A touch on the arm at the right moment, a whispered word in a crowded room, a private smile that no one else sees. These small signals act like emotional shortcuts. They carry more weight than grand gestures because they feel spontaneous, unplanned, and authentic. Symbolic intimacy tells him, this is just for you. And that feeling of exclusivity is one of the most intoxicating experiences in human connection. The deeper truth is that love is not logical, it's layered. It's built on scarcity and abundance, on closeness and distance, on comfort and challenge, on independence and intimacy. Each layer, when combined intentionally, creates a fabric so rich that it can't be replicated. And it's in that uniqueness that love becomes enduring. He doesn't just stay because he loves what you give. He stays because he knows he won't find it anywhere else. When you understand how to weave these layers together, when you balance unpredictability with trust, intensity with calm, silence with presence, you create something beyond attraction. You create devotion that doesn't fade because it's built into the subconscious patterns that govern his behavior. He won't just think of you as someone he loves. He will experience you as someone he cannot imagine living without. And that is the deepest level of influence you can have on another human being.